In this video, we're going to showcase 5 Christmas prop frames that were made entirely out of EMT conduit and maker pipe fittings. And these have been shared in our community over the years. These will all be linked down below if you want to check out any of the photos or post in more details. And this first one is a really cool mega tree that was put together by Ross. And this is really fantastic. This is kind of a half moon at the bottom instead of a full circle. And I don't know for sure if Ross used our tool that we created a few years ago for making these arches, but if you're unfamiliar, you can bend things with EMT conduit, you can bend EMT conduit for your builds using a handheld tubing bender. And we actually made a video and a calculator a couple years ago that you can use to figure out the measurements that you need for doing these incremental bends. You'll see if you look closely down here, there's marks every couple of inches, and that is what you use with the bender to be able to, do these small bends over and over to actually make this arch. And he split this into 2 pieces, actually utilizing the 4-way connector there in the middle that adds that reinforcement bar to the other side, and then the 90-degree connectors in the corners. And something cool that you might not notice on first glance is at the bottom of each vertical, he actually has a maker pipe telescoping clamp at the very bottom of it. And that is something that you can use to actually make a telescoping solution with 1/2-inch EMT. The 1/2-inch EMT just slides inside of the 3/4 inch, and you can adjust that and adjust the base so you can level it out really easily. So that's a really clever idea that he shared. Really glad that he posted this and shared that idea. But here we can see in the back, he's just got one tall vertical, and at the very top, it attaches to this ring that the lights connect to, and then those go all the way down and then just hook on to the base. Nice and easy. I think he's using ball bungees, it looks like, to secure those at the bottom, and that's a really simple solution to make this and to support the lights to make this mega tree, and it looks fantastic. And here we can see it all lit up at night, and it looks really awesome. So thanks so much, Ross, for sharing this. Awesome job. Next up is a prop frame for Henry the Snowman. This was shared by Matthew, and his niece gave Henry this name. And essentially this is a really simple frame that was put together. As we can see here, it has 4 verticals. The back 2 have rebar stakes sticking out of them, which is going to do a good job of anchoring this in place, especially if you've got some bad weather coming in. Then just used a series of maker pipe fittings and EMT conduit to build this triangular frame to support Henry the Snowman there. We can see some adjustable angle connectors. We can see some T connectors. We can see some 90-degree connectors. And if you're unfamiliar with those that we manufacture, they're made in upstate South Carolina in our shop, and they're made so you can just use a 5mm hex wrench. You don't have to do any drilling or any welding. You can just cut EMT conduit with a handheld tubing cutter, customize dimensions exactly how you need them, and then make connections with the maker pipe fittings in a 5mm hex wrench and build all kinds of stuff as we've seen over the years. But this is a simple frame that, as we can see, is just supporting Henry the Snowman. And whenever he shared this post, he actually shared this website, which is Inspire Light Shows, and they have a ton of STL files, as you can see here. So if you have a 3D printer, you can get these files for free, it looks like, and then you can actually make Coroplast mounts for EMT conduit utilizing these files. And I think you can actually buy them on their website if you don't have a 3D printer, which is really awesome and a really great solution. Really appreciate Matthew sharing that because, oftentimes people are able to build their EMT conduit frames really easily, but then it's just these kind of custom solutions and these mounts and things like that where it can get kind of tricky sometimes. So I think that's a great resource that I'll link down below that you can use for your prop frames. But really awesome job with this build, Matthew. Thanks so much for sharing it. Next up is a display from Claudio, and this is really fantastic. We can see here's the whole show all lit up, and they built these frames to support the snowflakes on the roof here. And their goal was to be able to build frames that didn't have to drill or attach to their roof, that could basically just kind of secure in place utilizing some sandbags, and I think they have it roped off as well to kind of support it on the roof so it doesn't slide off. But essentially just used EMT conduit to build these rectangular and triangular frames here, as you can see, to support these Coroplast props and these light mounts there, as you can see all throughout this build. And essentially, like I said, is just sitting on the angled part of the roof here, and then it looks like they have some I think some cables going up to it. I'm not sure where those cables are attached to. They may not even have cables. It might just be all sandbags to secure this in place up here. Of course, you want to be safe and mount this accordingly and make sure that you're doing this in a really good way to make sure it's not falling off your roof. But it looks like it's holding up fine for them and doing a really good job. And as you can see, it's just these simple rectangular frames to support the Coroplast props, and looks fantastic. There it is. Looks like they kind of fold them up and take out some of the pieces, which is another benefit of using the 5mm hex wrench. It's really easy to put connections together and take them apart if you need to store your prop frames year after year. Put them in the back of the garage, forget about them until the next year. You can do that really easily and kind of be strategic with the parts and the pipes that you take loose so that you can put them together really easily the next year. Here we can see a similar, I think this is supposed to be a Megatree base, just like the one we looked at to start this video, but that's really cool and just a good close-up of the different ideas. But really awesome job. Thanks so much, Claudio, for sharing this. It looks like you have a fantastic light show, and we're glad you could use Conduit Maker Pipe to help with that. So thanks so much for sharing this. Next up is a build that was shared recently by Jerry, and this is a nativity prop that he put together. I think he was able to save a lot of money because the people that make the actual prop, like a prefab version of this, it was really expensive, but he was able to just use MakerPipe connectors down here, as you can see, and some crossover clamps, as well as some adjustable angle connectors to make the the angled roof of the stable that this is for the nativity scene, which is really fantastic. It looks awesome. And here is the nativity set I think that you can buy, and the prefab version, and then here's the DIY version that he put together. We don't see it lit up at night, but he said that it looks fantastic and it's working out great, and he was able to save a ton of money. So that's really fantastic. And this is a really common thing that we see from the community, where you just build an EMT conduit frame to support props in different ways. Usually doesn't take more than a pipe or two to be able to support a specific coroplast or light frame or light matrix. So that's really cool, and gives you a lot of options for customization, and you don't have to break the bank, as we can see here. So thanks so much for sharing this, Jerry. Really awesome job. Last but not least is a build from Steve, and this is one that was shared a couple years ago, and it's really fantastic. I reference it all the time. This is a great showcase of MakerPipe and EMT Conduit for making custom frames, because Steve made these sign frames for this Christmas or Merry Christmas sign that he puts up every year in his show. And essentially it's just this angled frame that is made to kind of rest on the eave of the roof, or the very pitch or peak, and then it's angled down and then has longer verticals in the front with rubber pipe feet, and those just kind of rest on the roof there. Looks like he uses a mixture of sandbags and cables to keep this in place and keep it from sliding off, so that's good to keep that nice and secure. And essentially it's just a rectangle on the front, rectangle on the bottom, and then just some angled pieces with some MakerPipe T connectors to support that. And then if we go through here, we can see that he actually has the Merry Christmas sign mounted to some PVC, and then that just bolts onto the EMT conduit frame, as we can see here, and looks fantastic. A really great idea, and a really great showcase of EMT conduit and MakerPipe to make something custom like this. There we can see it down from ground level, all mounted. You can kind of see the pipes and connectors, but really not a ton. And then of course, once this is all lit up, you really can't see it, and it just looks fantastic in the show, and it's a really nice touch. So that's really awesome. All these builds really do a great job of showcasing how useful EMT conduit connectors can be for making prop frames in your holiday light shows. So hopefully you found these inspiring. If you have any questions, feel free to leave those down below. Thanks so much for watching. I'll see you in the next one.